I want to talk really briefly about my experience with depression. Uh, I've been depressed pretty much off and on since I was 13. I've had a lot of really negative things happen that kind of reinforced it. Uh, Pretty much, first off, when Mom was pregnant with my brother, she was kind of hateful, and it really hurt me a lot. Even though I realized that it was, just part of it, it hurt me a lot. And at the same time, I was beginning to realize I was gay, probably. But I couldn't accept it because it felt wrong. I felt wrong about it. I felt really bad. And then, as I came to realize that I was, it kind of happened in a really bad time because my grandma was really sick all the time. She was going in and out of the hospital all the time. Nobody could ever tell him, what was wrong. And then she finally went, and she was in a bigger hospital for a week and a half, I think it was, and they found out she had serious heart problems. Like 70% of her heart was not working, and she was in a really, really weak state. But somehow, for some reason, they sent her home. She was here for a week and a half. Then, that day, it was May 22nd of 2005, she told me she needed me to come get her phone, so I did. And she calls Mom and tells her she can't breathe, can't move in her bed, so I had to call 911. At this point, I was in total terror, felt sheer terror, because I didn't know what was going to happen. They told me they'd have an ambulance here in about 20 minutes. It took the longest 20 minutes of my life. They took her to the nearest hospital, evaluated her, found something strange on a chest x-ray, and they sent her to a larger facility. Actually, it was the one that she had been out before. Then they did a procedure. It was that Friday. It was May 27th, and they found out that she had lung cancer. It was advanced lung cancer, and it was so far along there was really nothing they could do about it. And during the same time that they found that she had the cancer, her lung collapsed. It's a risk of the procedure. It's called a bronchoscope. It's a risk anybody, regardless of their health or their age. What Mom told me, their lung can collapse. But this happened. Then basically later that day, she ended up on life support, and I was the first one from our family to go in and see her on life support. I had to go get Mom because I needed to talk to her and discuss, I guess, the options. And then it essentially led to us going up there every day for the next 2 weeks. They finally took her off the life support on June 9th, and she died 6 days later on the 15th, June 15th. It was like she pretty much was fine in March, and she went from that to dead in less than 3 months. Relatively in 3 weeks. It was extremely devastating. Like I had been when I was 13, I strongly contemplated suicide because I didn't think I could go on without her in my life. And it's been hard because I'm not the same as I used to be, and I have very little motivation these days. It's just, excuse me, I'm really devastated still. And it's going to be 5 years here soon that this all started. Actually, the 22nd, it was 5 years since I called for the ambulance, and it's all starting over again. It's just, I sat around and cried so hard that I could hardly breathe for about a year following her death, and then I had to deal with my birthday that March because her birthday was the same birthday as mine. She was only 63 when she died. Way too young. And then I still was dealing with the fact that I was becoming more and more aware that I was probably gay at the time. I finally concluded it. Then I was, shortly after she died, it was that summer. And then, I mean, it's not really improved since she died. I mean, I was alone, totally alone. She was one of the few people I could confide in about anything, although I never told her about thinking I was gay, because I just couldn't face telling her. Then, 2006, pretty much, I started talking to people on the internet, like MySpace, stuff like that, and it didn't really last. It just, I don't know. Then, 2007 was pretty good, even though my uncle died in April. He had cancer. It was a lot of death in a short time in my family. A lot of people that we've known for several years, it just like seems like they all died within a couple of years. It was really not good. 2008 was uneventful until the last quarter of the year. Started having some financial problems here at home. 2009 began uneventfully. It literally began. Then on February 27th, I went to Walmart one day and I met my friend Aaron. My entire world changed when I met Aaron because I found myself developing the most intense crush I had ever had in my life on him, and then by late March it was obvious that I had a major crush on him. I was going to the store frequently. Then as April progressed, I was going up there every day, and there might have been a week out of the entire month I didn't go up there just to see him. By this point I was beginning to feel like I was falling in love with him. And then by May it was pretty obvious that I was in love with him because he was all I thought about. It drove me crazy. And then he told me he's going to be moving 4 days before he moved, and it really hurt me. Really, I got upset. But after he wasn't at the store anymore, I couldn't really get a hold of him that often, and I still really can't talk to him that often because he's busy. And right after, about a month after he left, things here at home got really bad financially. It really turned into a bad nightmare. Apparently Mom miscalculated in her checking account, and she essentially wrote some hot checks. They didn't cover them. Something went wrong with the bank, and it caused a major problem. Then she asked me to write some checks for, it totaled a lot. The checks ended up being returned because there wasn't enough, I guess. Then, as the summer progressed, I think it was in September, Aaron told me that he was dating somebody, and it felt like my entire world ended. I was severely depressed from then for the next about 6 months. At the same time, I found out about the checks. That's when I found out about those checks. And it got to the point where Mom couldn't pay the bills, and the water got turned off for about half a week at one point, and we come really close to having our electricity shut off. The reason that those things couldn't be paid easily is because some of the checks, I guess she had a couple of checks or something like that herself, and they were turned over to the prosecuting attorney, so it was either pay them or risk them prosecuting it. And after that was taken care of, the restitution was made on all the checks. Things got easier, but then she ended up getting an SUV, and it really got her drained. She made a really bad decision, I think, financially, but it's not my place to say. But the point that got me about the checks is, I thought the checks would be turned over to the prosecuting attorney if they couldn't be paid, but in our case, where we live, they apparently have different rules here because they were turned over to the police. And they had me come in on a day and arranged to pay it, and they accepted the offer. Them and the merchant accepted it, and it was paid for. I was extremely ashamed of it, and I'm still extremely ashamed of it. I didn't have any reason to believe that they wouldn't be covered, so I don't know. And I still struggle with other things. In time, things can improve because things have gotten better somewhat. So that's my experience with depression.